Welcome back to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper, live right outside the Washington Navy Yard. Before he was the Navy Yard killer, he was just another IT contractor with a security card. But how did a man with a laundry list of red flags who heard voices and had a history of violent outbursts, how did he get that kind of clearance? Well, that's the question Senator Kelly Ayotte wants answered by a committee hearing. The New Hampshire Republican joins me now. Senator, thanks for joining us. We've just learned that Committee Chairman Dianne Feinstein will launch an investigation of security clearances. What exactly are you focused on the most in looking at this potential problem?
Well, I'm very glad that Dianne Feinstein is going to launch this hearing. I serve on the Homeland Security and Government Oversight Committee. I believe that we should have a hearing that looks at the prior incidents. This man had prior incidences of misconduct, prior interactions with the criminal justice system, obviously law enforcement, not only in Seattle, but in Texas. And then in August, he had this interaction with the Rhode Island police, where the Rhode Island police contacted the Navy saying he was hearing voices demonstrating obviously bizarre mental health behavior, deep concerns. And then again, when he was discharged from the Navy, what we have as information is that they wanted to seek a general discharge, but ended up seeking an honorable discharge. The issue is one of safety in terms of the security clearances for individuals who are contractors that come in sensitive areas like the Navy Yard and other facilities across our country. We need a thorough review to make sure that people aren't getting through that should not be receiving these kinds of security clearances.
Now, I remember earlier this year you were pushing bipartisan legislation on strengthening mental health coverage in this country. What happened to that bill, and theoretically, what could that do to prevent future horrors like this one?
Well, Jake, I think there's a lot of bipartisan support right now in the Senate. I have a bill with Mark Begich. Today we called Harry Reid and asked him to, we basically issued a release asking Harry to bring that up. Over 90 votes in the Senate. Our bill would deal with making sure that we detect signs of mental illness at an early stage. And then we need, there are bills that deal with how do we deal with intervention, training for law enforcement, and making sure that we see the signs early on and get treatment for individuals who are mentally ill before they commit these kinds of acts. And I think there's a lot of support across party lines on this, that we can get some legislation done to address these troubling issues.
But if it passed so overwhelmingly in the Senate, it just never was taken up by the House?
Well, it didn't fully pass. It was part of the legislation, obviously, on the gun control issues, but it hasn't been introduced as its own standalone legislation. So it died with that piece of legislation. But I actually think it could be taken up separately and easily passed, because most of the mental health provisions got over 90 votes in the Senate, and very little gets 90 votes around here, Jake.
I want to ask you, as you're a mother of young children, I'm a father of young children, when you hear that something like this happens, even if he had not been able to get into the Navy Yard, this person, this killer, might have taken his frustrations out in his way somewhere else, on some other innocent people. So putting the security issue and the clearance issue aside for a second, when you hear that he was hearing voices, that he shot out tires of a car and said he had to keep guns out of the hands of people like that.
Well, Jake, I think we're all deeply saddened by what happened here. And absolutely, I think one of the things we have to do is this issue, he didn't have a criminal record that would have prevented him from having a firearm, but the issue is really early intervention for mental health issues and making sure that individuals who have these types of mental illnesses, that we detect them early, get them the treatment that they need, rather than have them in these types of situations. I think that's why this legislation that I talked about earlier, where there is strong bipartisan support for it, let's move on that now.
I want to ask you about one other issue. We're 12 days away from a potential government shutdown and about a month away from yet another fiscal cliff. Today, Speaker John Boehner said House Republicans would do everything they could to repeal Obamacare. Take a listen.
This week, the House will pass a CR that locks the sequester savings in and defunds Obamacare. The law is a train wreck.
The law is what the law is, but it is the law, and it did pass the House and the Senate. President Obama and the Senate you're a member of are never going to defund Obamacare. Is the House on a fool's errand here? Is this just going to start a government shutdown that your party's going to take the heat for no reason at all?
Well, Jake, let me just say that, I've heard so much concern about Obamacare, and I've supported repealing it. That's one of the reasons I ran for the United States Senate, as you know, in 2010. But I don't think that shutting down the government is going to be productive. We have to remember that right now, and we only have a third of the government as Republicans, and so I think we should make every effort we can to make sure that we stop this law. But I don't believe we should shut down the government to do so, and I don't think that's a strategy that is good for America.
All right, Senator Kelly Ayotte, Republican of New Hampshire. Live free or die. Thank you so much.